See this seventh consecutive transfer of power. We saw how contentious the elections were, and we are seeing the climax to the whole situation at the end of the day. Today happened today at the Eagle Square in Abuja. Yes, we can arguably say that our democratic institutions are evolving.
Indeed, they are evolving, and as you were sort of hinting at there still is work to be done.
Absolutely.
But fortunately, the president-elect, and in another couple of hours, 2-3 hours, will be removing the elect part out of the title.
And he will become the president.
He will become the president. One of the first things he's going to be facing, I'm sure, is going to be that of unifying us all.
And that is what a lot of persons have been talking about, how he is going to bring everyone together. He has said that he is looking at a government of national competence. That is what he called it. But then a lot of persons have said it should be a government of national unity. But we know that there's competence across the regions of the country. So when he is making his appointments, he will be looking at competence stemming from his antecedent over the years. And so it is still going to unify the country.
All right, gentlemen of the press.
It is still going to unify the country.
All right, gentlemen of the press. I am going to leave you to take it up from here. Of course, we'll see you again later on. I need to be at the Eagle Square now. Of course.
Catch you later then. So just as you were saying, there is no part of this country that doesn't have competent people. The thing is, like many in the games and events, there can only be one captain. There can only be one captain in a team. And so even though there might be 6, 7, 8 competent people, there's only going to be one. This will bring about, some people feeling, one kind. It's a part of the development. You recall that in this particular event, we haven't actually had the expected occurrence of somebody congratulating the other.
Right.
That hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened.
But it's part of the development. It will happen.
At some point.
At some
because
point.
the matters are in court.
Indeed.
Yes.
So, and we're even talking about going forward.
Yes. At the end of the day, when we have, wrapped up the situation with the court, then we should be hoping to see someone congratulating the other at the end of the day.
But in the meantime, here we are on the 29th of May. It's a glorious day for most Nigerians, just about all Nigerians. It's the chance to turn over a new page, so to speak, and continue from where the last administration, left off. Clearly, the Tinubu-Shettima team have their plans, but they will not be building from ground zero. Absolutely.
Government is a continuum. And so that is what Nigerians expect, although it's a mixed bag of reaction to the the issues and the situation, and whatever the outgoing administration has done is a mixed bag of reaction to that. So whenever people hear, okay, the incoming administration will build on what the outgoing administration would do, it raises some question and concerns because of the situations Nigerians have faced when you look at insecurity, matters of insecurity, the economy, and all of it. So we believe that as much as government is a continuum, we will see this administration come to turn things around at the end of the day. Even the president-elect has said that he knows what it is for him. He asked for people should not pity him, that he threw his hat in the ring.
Referring to those who said that they're sorry for whoever is taking over.
Yes, that he threw his hat in the ring and he wanted people to vote for him, and he already knows that he has his job cut out for him. So Nigerians will be waiting to see him use the magic wand to address these issues.
Yeah, we're always in so much of a hurry, aren't we? And people will be looking for things to change overnight. I guess, we sort of know deep down that that's not possible, but people expect a new beginning. And relating to the sort of strife, remember when President-elect Tinubu, was commenting after the lecture, I think it was by the president of Kenya. And he was saying that, look, it's part of the evolution of democracy. The majority will have their way, while the minority's position will not be in any way compromised. It will be allowed to air itself to the optimum. This is part of democracy.
Absolutely.
It will be pursued to the logical conclusion,
yes.
and at the end of the day, it will be seen that we are developing. This is the nature of democracy anywhere in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we are on track with that.
I would say so.
But the challenge is how we manage our emotions through it all. That is the concerns that a majority of persons have. Recall that we talked about how contentious this was. We had politics of identity in the course of the election and all of it. And there are conversations around how we need to win ourselves off those kinds of conversations, profiling people, and seeing that we move forward, we improve on our democracy. What are the lessons we have learned at the end of the day with the 2023 elections? If we say we are actually evolving, those are the issues we have to be looking at moving forward.
Indeed, but I imagine all of these things, they eminently are doable. But it must be said for those who are, sort of watching it and commenting, we've never had it this vigorous, this sort of misunderstanding among our people.
True.
It's never been this bad in my, how old am I? In this, my little memory. It's never been this bad. But for all of that, people are also hopeful that the right thing will be done. There will be statesmen all around. And this cannot go on forever. That is the state of a bit of a shakiness in the midst of all of this stability. Even that little shakiness somewhere in the middle there will become normalized with the general stability that we have all around.
And that's the work cut out for the incoming administration, how to stabilize the country. And how they put their foot forward would say a lot, especially with his appointments. Recall that the former outgoing president, I was going to say the former president, the outgoing president, it took him 6 months to make some critical appointments. But the person of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, with his antecedent, he is known to hunt for people who are competent and who can manage every parastatal. And so that will speak to how he wants to ensure stability. We see that even some regions are already making demands. Release Nnamdi Kanu so to ensure peace and all of it. How he also handled that will also speak to how he wants to ensure there's stability in the country as well.
Indeed, I couldn't agree with you more. But then, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as is well known by now, this is not a project that started last month or last year.
Not at all.
He's been at it for conservatively
over
3 decades.
Yes.
Over
indeed,
3 decades. So he's really been working on this when all of Nigerians were sleeping, metaphorically speaking. He was working because we didn't know, at least not too many people knew 30 years ago that, this is the ultimate objective of this citizen. But he's been at it, as you alluded to the fact that he has this talent for being able to, pick up the best people. And so all of that, it's not going to be any different, I don't think. I think it was it Coyote earlier in the morning that opened up with Mike. He was speaking about some of the appointments that are going to be expected of him. You know,
it's critical.
Yes, and we don't know who those appointments are. We don't even know what his plan are. Will it be a matter of the secretary to government? Will it be a matter of the chief of staff? Will it be, who are those people? But key appointments, I imagine, will have to be made. I wouldn't say will have to be. Might be made today. Don't you think?
Definitely. Like when the president gave him the handover notes, a lot of persons said that he would have begun to address key issues. He would have hit the ground running behind the scene because he would look through the notes, know who will be able to manage certain issues that he will see in the handover notes. So it is expected that he has his plans put together ahead of today, and then we see more. We get the revelation of what has been going on behind the scene today. Yes, that is what we will be seeing expectedly.
Indeed, that is indeed what it's going to be. It's a glorious day. A lot of people have been praying and fasting for this day to come. you know, so I imagine they're good. They're happy that the good Lord has answered their prayers.
There was palpable tension leading up to this day because we saw how contentious, like we mentioned earlier, the election was. And so a lot of persons did not know what to expect because we're seeing all sorts of conversations here and there, litigations here and there, and statements coming up here and there, this and that. But at the end of the day, the judiciary is playing its role to ensure that there is some peace and stability in the country ahead of today, which they have done. And moving forward, we hope to see them also intervene, so to speak, at the end of the day, when all the matters are settled at the courts.
The other thing, of course, yeah, Veronica. The other thing is that when you just look at the number of citizens of the world, leaders of the world, that have made a beeline for Nigeria, that is heartwarming.
Absolutely.
It's really across the African continent, beyond the African continent. In fact, somebody, you know who it is, somebody landed with the biggest plane ever. I think it's something called a Boeing 767. You people that always fly would know that better than me. So it just shows the wide acceptance. The wide acceptance.
Right.
Following the declaration of the Independent National Electoral Commission that all conditions have been satisfied, and the winner, we have a winner, is, you know, Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his running mate, you know. So the day has come. It's a day a lot of people have prayed for, and I guess a sort of slightly religious overtone. We are happy this day. You know, it's the Lord's Day.
This day has come, absolutely.
And we are very happy in it. Okay. Well, Vero, we can't have it to ourselves, but we do have an expert joining us now, our friend who is of the University of Lagos, Kayode Ezuola, Associate Professor of Political Science. Kayode, good morning to you, and thank you very much
for coming on.
Good morning.
On this auspicious day. At least that's the way some of us see it.
Absolutely.
A very special day.
Right, right.
A special day.
And when you look, what does it say to you, Kayode? The number of dignitaries, you know, the sheer number, what does that say to you? I mean, people had to come, but when you look at the sheer number, there was hardly a break for our foreign affairs correspondent. Just as one, you noted one, another one had landed, another one had landed. What did all of that say to you?
Well, for me, it speaks to two things. One, Nigeria is very important, not only to Africa, but to the world itself. The world is keeping Nigeria on watch. I think the second dimension is that the president himself, president-elect himself, of course, it will be
for another 3 hours, it's going to be like that.
It signifies a reaching out tendency, you know, in this approach. People don't just come for your inauguration. They must watch your disposition, your body language before they start turning in, because it's a very delicate diplomatic situation. So, one, Nigeria is important to the world, much more than we think. And the second is that there's a semblance of the intention to reach out more to the deeper world on the part of the president who will be president in a few hours.
Indeed.
Now, talk to us about this disposition, if you're to break it down to specifics, and how this would impact, perhaps, our relationship with other countries of the world and our positioning as a country in the Committee of Nations, as well as even our foreign policy.
Definitely it will. If you look at Asiwaju, is somebody whose politics you can trace from the beginning down to where he is now. You may not like him, but what you will not deny about him is his ability to shop around across cultures, across nationalities, for the best people he considers as those who can do the work. I think he carried that into the national level when he came out, you know, to signify his intention. You could see his consultation deliberately done. You could see his spread of acceptance. And if this is so at the national level, it is now going to snowball into the international level. The world of today is where nobody is an island. You just have to relate with countries. And what we don't know is that in most cases, this relationship is more personal than official.
Right.
The official is what you see on the pages of papers, perhaps on the screen of television, but the person involved in the touch, in the contact, in the discussions, in the negotiations, speak volume to the end result that you're going to get. So it speaks to a glimmer of hope on the part of Nigeria in terms of better understanding by the international community, acceptance, economic cooperation, diplomatic resolutions, unlike probably what you saw in the past 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, which appears to be a very rigid-minded person who thinks, I've done it, whatever it is, live with it. I think it's going to be a bit different from the body language of the president to be sworn in a few minutes.
Indeed, that is so. Now, a lot of people, one thing that a lot of people have been talking about, maybe I'm jumping kind of a bit here, the foreign policy of Nigeria. People are going to be looking forward to see what indeed this administration will be rolling, especially President Tinubu, as he will be known in another few hours. What would his foreign policy look like? Are you satisfied, Kadi, that we've put as much emphasis as we can over the recent years on this aspect of governance? Position of Africa, of Nigeria vis-a-vis foreign policy?
Yeah, Nigeria has always been the big brother of Africa. That is the philosophy, of our foreign policy. That's the philosophy. And so when you see it at details level, you see a country that tries to absorb sometimes insults, sometimes odd things to be able to speak as the center that it's supposed to be. That has paid off a lot diplomatically. As a matter of fact, but for that approach to international relations and diplomacy, the image of Nigeria around the world will have been much worse than it is today. But I don't have statistics, but all I can say is that because Tinubu appears to people, including me, as somebody who demonstrates understanding of the issues at stake across the world, appears. You don't know people's mind. I don't know how he's going to form his cabinet and all that, but that's the image that we have from the pedigree, from the speeches. So because he appears to be somebody who understands issues at stake, both locally and internationally, we expect that big brother philosophy of diplomacy to snowball into rewards for us, because hitherto it has not snowballed into much reward for Nigeria. And for
Why do you think it's so? What did we not do correctly?
Well, there are 1,001 things, as I said, as I said before. In political relationship, the person really matters. And I'm speaking from behavioral point of view. Institutions run, but those who run the institution do a lot to color the institutions and, of course, give it perception to the outside world. What we have not done well in the past will be traced to the doing and undoing of those at the helm of affairs. I'm running away from being personal this time.
Why is that?
What we should now do is take advantage of this situation, the seeming acceptance, the popularity around the world, to put things right.
How do we take advantage of that with this incoming administration? You've mentioned something that is critical, because the image or the perception of Nigeria's image across the world is not as satisfying or good, if I may use that word.
Not at all.
And so that has to change. Now, you've mentioned something. We need to take advantage of this acceptance. How do we take advantage of this to launder our image, and also benefit from the relationship.
Yeah. Build your cabinet and let it reflect those who have the capacity to do so. If you build your cabinet and what we can see is clannishness, if you build your cabinet and what we can see is my cousin, my uncle, or my former business partner, even if you have the wisdom of Solomon, you are going to go back the old way. So the how for the incoming president is to shop around. And I said it when I started that in his character, so far, he has a pedigree to follow.
Yes.
You know, I'm not here to campaign for it. The campaign days are over.
Over anyway.
But he has a pedigree to follow.
Indeed.
Like him, hate him, what you cannot deny is ability to nose around and fish the best people to do whatever at any point in time. So I'm now saying that the best way that he has started, he should continue. He should look around across Nigeria, irrespective of tribe, language, religion, ethnicity, what have you. Fish out experts who can do the work, okay, in terms of economy, in terms of policy, in terms of international relations, domestic affairs, name it. We're going to get the result.
Indeed. And I sort of almost can stick my neck out and say that that is exactly how it's going to be, because you've touched on the man, his specific talent in that regard. And I have no doubt, because, well, the area of concern, there are people who are saying that, well, yeah, he's made his chops in Lagos, but Nigeria is more than Lagos. You hear that a lot. But I believe that as in Lagos, so it'll be in Nigeria. It's the template, it's just that it's on an enlarged scale.
I think I share your belief. If anybody thinks Nigeria is different from Lagos, the person might not be very realistic. Lagos is the microcosm of Nigeria. There is nothing in any part of Nigeria that is not replicated in Lagos, culturally, economically, socially, even ideologically, if you choose at the same time. So the president, in a few minutes, must continue the habit of looking around for the best people to do the job, irrespective of where they are from, the religion they belong to, and all this thing. The second thing, because this is the time to set agenda.
Absolutely.
The second thing is that he must not make the mistake of the past administration. I was reading through something circulating in the social media about the past president and the achievement. A lot you could read in terms of road, in terms of this, in terms of, you must give it to him. But something is missing. There's a mismatch between the intention and the expectation. Politics is contractual. When you are coming to the office, you have a contract with the people. Vote me in. Pasco, I'm coming to do 1, 2, 3, 4. That is the contract. Now, if you now come into that office and you abandon the contract and you follow your own intention, however good or noble these intentions are, you are not going to get acceptance. And that's a problem of the past administration. So if you want a piece of advice rolled out to the incoming president, he should act on the contract between Nigerian people and himself. If he works towards that in terms of policy formulation, in terms of running of the government, suddenly, Nigeria is going to change like a flash in the pan.
Well, he has said that people shouldn't pity him, that he will live up to his expectations. He asked for the job. He knows that he has his job cut out for him and that he is ready to deliver.
He has said that. We still have to advise. Politicians say all sorts of things. They must still advise and insist.
Indeed.
Insist.
But I would like to say, well, maybe we shouldn't overemphasize the pity bit, because I think where it originated from was the former emir of Kano, who in some intellectual, maybe some discourse, was saying that he was really referring to the magnitude of the problems facing, the country, and in that context had said that I don't I mean, this country is so big and so complex and so
Absolutely.
difficult. I really don't, I don't envy the next guy coming in. And of course, we all knew, or at least at that time, we were praying. Those who were, supporting, were praying that he would be the. But he has now picked up that particular baton, and I said that. As you
He
were
knows
saying,
he has his work cut out for him. That's what I'm trying to say. That he would have learnt his lessons.
that he threw his hat in the ring.
Yes,
as you
that
said.
he has to match expectations and intentions, whatever he has promised, that he has to deliver on it. But how he goes about it is also very critical.
You see, the problem of Nigeria is not as insurmountable as people present it. It is because it looks like that because we've been making one mistake over the years.
Okay, what's
You
that?
want to build a house, and you invite a tailor to construct a house because a tailor is your friend.
Because he's your friend or
Get
a relative.
back into the history of Nigerian political arena in the past 15 years. That is what you see.
Right.
And that is what needs to change. There's security problem. There's economic problem. I mean, are you putting those who can, by pedigree, into these places to resolve the situation? If you have the capacity to do so, the problem is 75% solved. Then you stay ahead and you moderate. Did you read one funny comment by one of the ministers recently who said he never knew anything about education?
Yes, I read that.
Until he was appointed as a minister of education. Yori, one day, somebody may want to appoint a conductor to come and sit on your seat and interview people around the world. That is the comedy of Nigeria. And if we change that comedy, we indicate interest in moving forward.
Okay, I think those are pictures in Abuja inauguration day. Events proper will be kicking off at 10 o'clock. That's when everybody would have been seated. But these are just the preparations, and of course TVC is going to be back screen, as well as front screen to give you all the views.
Accounts.
Kade, you were relating to the past administration, and it just struck me that, look, when the president, at the time he was the incoming president, was coming in, the hope of Nigerians was sky high, especially as it related to security. People looked at the pedigree of the president, retired major general. What can you tell him about military operations? But apparently, getting in there, in spite of what has been achieved, it is felt that we're not quite where we want to be, and he would have been seen as the best placed person to be able to do this job. And now that's something that the Tinubu administration is going to have to watch out for. Where the expectations of the people are, because you're talking about contracts.
Yes. We had, in 2015, we had a very wrong understanding and conceptualization of security. Perhaps we thought security was gun for gun. Perhaps we thought security was battlefield. We didn't theorize enough to know that security starts from the root. It's a behavioral issue. Your kids, my kid and his kid, will never be on the way with a jacket of bullets to blow up anybody. The question is why? Bombers. They are not biographically available for such high-risk behavior. So if we want to tackle security, you don't think of gun buying, which is one of the errors that I saw in the achievement of the past president, the outgoing president.
We don't need weapons.
I have bought 17 aircraft for
the Tucano aircraft and all of that.
That is not security. That is the corrective part of security. Who are the people inflicting insecurity on the nation? Then what do you do in terms of policy to reduce the number of such people significantly? If you do that from the road, you spend less in buying weapons and ammunition. And that is the meaning of security. So in 2015, we were deceived into thinking that security means fight. We're not looking at food security, we're not looking at social security, we're not looking at intellectual security. And that is why we got to where we are. So the new approach that the new government needs to adopt must be holistic. You don't cure malaria by just taking paracetamol to address the headache. While you take paracetamol to address the headache, you must tackle the pathology, the plasmodium. What is the plasmodium in this case? It is the society. If you have a country where you pay soldiers 35,000 naira per month, and then you have an organization that promises to pay 180,000 per month, it is only rational that a youngster on the road will be more loyal to that organization than to your own state, as it were. If you leave children out of school, and if your social security system is not so strong that people live without hope. So as Nigerian army recruits soldiers to defend the state, okay, the society is recruiting more soldiers to join those who will attack the state. So security is not fighting. Security is not gone. Perhaps you need the gun, perhaps you need the jet fighters at the top level, but kick it from the road. When people live well, they will not be available for high-risk behavior. That is not to say there will be total elimination of crime, but it will then become an abnormal behavior that will make you raise the question, what attracts you to this?
Exactly.
But as it is now, everything attracts people, not only to crime, but also series of illegitimate behavior. How do you tackle that? It's a matter of policy.
Indeed. And sorry, go ahead.
No, finish, because I am looking at this matter from a different perspective.
Yeah.
How do you address those who are agitating in the Southeast? How do you address the farmer headache crisis, perhaps in the North Central? Is this also about behavioral issues?
Definitely.
Is that a pathology?
Definitely.
How do you address, yes, we know the Northeast with banditry, kidnapping, and all of it, because these are peculiar issues to the region.
They are peculiar, but I insist they are behavioral issues. If you go to Mile 12 or a typical market in Lagos, or say Computer Village, you see how ethnic groups and their representatives coexist peacefully in doing their businesses. Perhaps the owner of the shop is an Igbo man, the sales girl will be a Yoruba person, and the man who packs the goods in the night and closes the shop is an Hausa person. They don't fight. You know why? Their economic interests are not threatened. Ethnicity simply refers to identity. It should not snowball into crisis and conflict, except and until your identity, your economic interest is threatened. If you look at Aguleri-Muleri crisis, Ife Modakeke, the same answer you are going to get. Therefore, those who are agitating are not agitating because they are of this ethnic group and they hate this ethnic group. They are saying that within this system, I am short paid. My economic interest is threatened. Therefore, I begin to crack my problems, and I now see that it is because I am of this ethnic group that this is happening. So it's an explanation. It's not the reason, as it were. So if we institute a polity in which people don't even remember where they are from, in terms of the appointments you give, in terms of distribution of resources across the nation. You have a president whose idea is to situate all instrumentalities of security in one geopolitical zone of the country. You threaten the other person economically, socially, and psychologically. Really? That's when he begins to say, it is because I'm of this identity.
Indeed.
I am not of this identity.
I'm not getting a
so
fair share.
when we do the right thing, who tells you you don't have ethnic and religious divisions in other countries? A country as small as Benin Republic has close to 63 ethnic groups. It's not up to 12 million.
Exactly.
Burkina Faso has close to 85 ethnic groups. It's not up to Lagos. So people think Nigeria is the only complex. It's not so. It is because they have a lot of structures with which they manage their ethnicity and their diversity. That is the way to go at now.
Well, indeed. Let's for a moment cut back to Abuja Eagle Square, where our man Ayodele Ozugbaku is standing by to find out what exactly. Good morning to you, Ayo. Good morning, Ayo. So, over to you to find out what can we expect from Eagle Square today. Of course, we know the big deed is going to happen, but tell us about it. Expect from Eagle Square today. Of course, we know the big deed is going to happen, but tell us about it. Well, as you can see, Ayo is ready. But, the wires and the cables and the screws, I don't know what's wrong with them. But you could see that Ayo, there's
You're not prepared at all.
We are all prepared. Everybody's excited. Today is the 29th. But don't worry, Ayo, we'll be right back to you to give us the rundown on what. In fact, I hear that maybe the cables and the screws were hearing my admonition. And I'm told that Ayo is back. On the way back. I did, and Ayo, can you hear us now? Ayo, can you hear us now? We're still having a challenge. I can see your lips moving. We're still having a challenge. I can see, but we'll sort it out. As soon as we sort it out, Ayo, please just stand by. We'll be right back to you. Okay. As I said, we're working to sort that out. The time has just gone 07:37, being very, very precise, just in case everybody is measuring this per minute, because it's at 10 o'clock that this show is supposed to take off. So it's just gone 07:37, and we have in studio Associate Professor, University of Lagos, Kayode Esuola, to look at what we have here.
Yes, before you move on to another issue, I just want him to quickly address the low-hanging fruits that this incoming administration can quickly look at to addressing this matter of security that you were speaking about before we turned our attention to Eagle Square. You talked about we needing to manage our ethnicity and diversity, but how do we address all of these issues if we need to move forward with regards to insecurity? Recently, the traditional rulers were asking for 50% of the security votes with regards to addressing matters of insecurity, and that they should be recognized by the government. I wonder if you also see that as some sort of a way out of this matter.
Well, remember, my position is that security is not fight. Security is plan. If you plan your security well, you are going to do less fight. Why are the traditional rulers asking for 50% of security vote? Is it to buy Okada and uniformed, armed people to chase robbers around? If that is the reason, it's a dead on arrival issue. Those youngsters in their communities who are kidnapping, who are robbing and stealing, where are they from? What is their disposition to the state? Are they not members of the Nigerian state? What is the plan of the Nigerian state for them? Are they documented? When you educate an accountant and he doesn't have a job, he becomes a fraudster, yes or no?
Right.
When you educate a psychologist and he doesn't have a job, he becomes what? If you educate a doctor and he doesn't get a job, he's the one that will be doing abortion everywhere. So for the life of a man, there are always two sides. It is how the state utilizes you that you take up. If the state takes the good part of you, you exhibit it more than the bad part. It doesn't solve all the problems. Okay. But the state is going to be ready, must be ready at this point, to create the best from the man. Create employment, generate values for human life. If there have been needs to document people, document them thoroughly. Because I don't know why people will have NIN and national security number, BVN and all that. And then somebody will still be able to kidnap you and make a call to get ransom from you. Somebody somewhere is playing some trick. I think I have this trust in the personality of the president. I'm not a party member.
President-elect still.
President-elect still. That he has the capacity to crack the problem. Once you are able to crack the problem, you have done 50% of the show. You can then render solution.
It just relates to, exactly. That graphic, okay, we lost that graphic. The graphic that we had there, I was speaking about the youth, building a nation for the youth, especially for our youth, where sufficient jobs with decent wages. And Kade, I think, touched on a giant point there when he spoke about the feeling of the citizenry of they don't understand us. They're not doing anything for us. They don't know my pain. I think Tinubu as president and Shettima, especially Tinubu, we'll get to know Shettima more. He knows the common man, the ordinary man's feeling, and I don't think anybody will be able to say when Tinubu, once he's in his way, that people don't understand my issue. That's something we'd had before. People must feel that those that are governing them understand us, feel for us. But quite often in the past, perhaps you would disagree, Kade, that people have felt that, well, it's okay for them. They are not suffering what I'm suffering. I'm the only person suffering here. And so most Nigerians think that they are the people bearing the brunt of pressure in this country, not our leaders.
Definitely.
So it becomes a you versus against us situation.
That's a sharp division in the Nigerian state. The citizens versus the ruling class. And I think that, as we have all agreed, is what the current administration must emphasize. It is not enough to trust the president because of his pedigree. It is also not enough to rely on his promises and his campaign. Really? The citizens must play their own role. Come on, there's a proverb in Yoruba which says, "Ishu atenumoro ki jono." If you put your yam on fire and somebody is watching it for you, if you keep quiet, it's going to burn off the stove. But keep saying, remember the yam is on fire. Remember the yam is on fire. Eternal vigilance is the price of development. We cannot just go to bed and say, we trust Tinubu, he has promised. And then we go back to churches singing hallelujah, thinking things must be done. No. We as citizens, you as pressmen, the totality of the civil society must play that role of constantly, every minute, every second, reminding them about the promises and what needs to be done. If we do that approach, we're going to solve the problem. Otherwise, it may turn. It may turn. Because human beings will always respond to where you have the highest pressure.
Right.
If we go to sleep, the political class will hijack this situation and then take the man away from his promise and plan. So it's a tripartite arrangement now. You have the political class with his own interest, which is power always and nothing else. You have the president with his interest of coming to solve the problems of the nation, as he promised. Okay. And then you have the citizenry who are at the receiving end. They must play their own role as actively